welcome to this new edition of Cal U Connections. I'm your host, Gary Smith, and first of all, I'd like to thank everybody for all the kind words that we've heard on email and Twitter and Facebook for this new series. And if this is your first time watching this new series here on CUTV, this is kind of our way of kind of reaching out to our Cal U community in the world to talk about how everyone's coping with this disruption, and then hopefully on the other side of this new reality, we can talk about other stuff and keep the conversation going. But we're excited. We have an action-packed day today on CUTV Sports 1. We have two shows lined up, both from Florida. But the first show, we're going to talk to Miss Jess Crosson. She is in downtown Miami. And Jess, just like to say, to prepare for this interview, since you are in Miami, I rewatched all three Will Smith movies, which I can't even think right now. And I played a couple games of FIFA, and I listened to Pitbull. So I feel like I'm really prepared for this interview. But I'd like to thank you for taking some time out this afternoon to talk with us, because I know it's just been a crazy 2 weeks. It seems like it's been longer. But so tell us, you're working in Miami, and I don't want to give it away. I'll let you explain to the people at home what you're doing, because we're all excited and proud of what you're doing down there in Florida.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, of course. So I'm working with the newest MLS expansion team. It's Inter Miami CF. It's Club de Football. And that is David Beckham's team. He's been trying for like 7 years to get it. It was announced 2 years ago that he was going to have it. And then finally we're here for our inaugural season. Currently on hold. But yeah, it's an exciting time down here for everyone in this area.
And the name of the movie with Will Smith, Bad Boys. I forgot Bad Boys, which is one of my top 5 favorite movies of all time, and I forgot it. So just not hitting stride yet this morning. But so before we talk specifically what you're doing with the new club in Miami, how did you get down there? Tell people your background, from high school to Cal U, because you've been out of school for what, maybe a year, 8 months. Time is not a real thing anymore. But you've done a lot in the short period of time, like in your college career, and to get to where you are now.
Yeah, it's been a whirlwind for sure. I'm from originally a small town near Hershey, PA. It's called Anvil, so I went to Anvil Cleona Senior High School, graduated there in 2015, came out to Cal. Was super involved with a lot of different things. Obviously, this is how we know each other with CUTV, Cal Times, the Media Suite Gang. Did a lot of things, but yeah, it's been crazy. So did 3.5 years at Cal U, graduated a semester early, December of 2018. Realized pretty early on in my sophomore year that sports was the direction I wanted to go. Did a couple internships with some USL teams, worked with the Pittsburgh Steelers, shadowed a couple different other organizations throughout my time. And then even after graduation, I never saw myself in sales, but my fits with the inside sales team. So that's where I went in January. By the end of January, I moved all my stuff home from California, PA, to move it right back to Pittsburgh, PA at the end of January there. So I was there for about a year. Yeah, about a year, and just learning all about what it is to do sales. They have a really great, really highly regarded inside sales program. I really can't thank those guys enough, because I was super skeptical going into it. And they took me, molded me, taught me a lot. I saw a completely different side of sales than what I had opinion on before. And then my manager, John Ketzlack, he really helped me figure out which route I wanted to go from there. And I ended up connecting with Miami. It was funny because one of my good friends on my team down there, she said on her second day, I looked at her and I was like, hey, like, would you want to move to Miami with me? I was completely like joking around with her, but I ended up being here, and it was funny just how things ended up working out. I'd been following this team since it was announced 2 years ago with the expansion, and it's just funny how things kind of work out. So moved down here officially at the end of January 2020, and I've been here since.
That's awesome. And one of the things, like, I know throughout your college career, I mean, if you would say match a sport with Jess, soccer definitely is a sport, because you announced several soccer games for us. You played soccer. How has this been? Like, do you pinch yourself thinking like, hey, I played soccer growing up. I've dreamed of it. and now I get to work with a brand new team, just starting out in one of the biggest leagues in the world.
It's so crazy. It's awesome because it's funny. My roommate here plays soccer as well for the USL team in Miami and played for Penn FC when I was out with them. So that's how we know each other. But we were just talking about it the other day. Um, but it's crazy to grow up playing soccer and then you make that difficult decision when you're going into school about whether to keep playing there and keep doing something you love or shifting focus. I shifted focus knowing I wasn't going to go pro. Um, and then still got super involved right away. My first internship was with the USL team in Harrisburg, the Harrisburg City Islanders, which was then rebranded into Penn FC, play alongside the Riverhounds in Pittsburgh. So I've always kept myself involved in soccer, and then um, definitely felt myself really missing it when I was with. I was kind of like the token soccer fan in the MLB office there. So I would catch some flack for that. So it's crazy to be able to see really kind of the growth of everything because the USL has been expanding, the MLS has been expanding, and soccer has really been growing in the United States. So it's super cool to be a part of. I never thought that I'd necessarily get into the MLS because I would never live in Philadelphia, and that was the only team in Pennsylvania.
That's the correct answer. You never want to live in Philadelphia. I might have
Exactly.
I might have just screwed up any future guests we have from Philadelphia, but I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Just couldn't be me. Couldn't be me. I'm sure it's lovely for some people, but yeah. So I'm super excited to be here. It's funny because now like I'm here and I'm kind of like, oh, I kind of miss baseball, but like we've got the Marlins, so I'll go catch some games. I want to see them when the Pirates are down here, but um, it's crazy to like watch everything kind of come full circle. It's a lot of people's dreams, and like I get to live it. So it's a pretty incredible and humbling experience.
Yeah, I can imagine because, like you said, you've worked in just a short period of time. You worked for the Pittsburgh Pirates, an organization that's been around for about 131 years, and a brand new expansion team. So you've seen both sides of it. Could you just talk a little bit about like some of the differences, like coming from a team that you touch on a little bit, but a team like the Pirates that have been around, established fan base. What's it been like trying to build the excitement for this new team in Miami?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a lot of highs and lows actually. So I remember even like with like any team anywhere in any league, I really talked to my manager at the Pirates a lot about the challenge that I think I would have really enjoyed taking on with an expansion team. And we looked at that and then like kind of like stepped away from it for a little bit and then came back to it. And I'm so glad I did because you don't really notice what all goes into being with an expansion team until you're there on the front lines doing it. Like I didn't realize certain things that I might have taken for granted because it was so much easier at the Pirates, like structure wise than it is here because we're still learning. But on the flip side of that, it's so incredible to literally have like a hand just as an account executive to really develop what's going on here and be there for that first inaugural season. The team grown to over 20 on the floor, which is incredible for us. So even just that growth there, and I only stepped in January. Like we are really the ones helping create history, and I don't know how often you really would have the opportunity to do so.
Yeah, and I know one of the cool things is even before, obviously since you're there now, everyone up here, I'm paying more attention to Miami. You kind of, just have it on your radar. But even before you got there, the club was doing a lot of cool things. One of the things is, their color scheme is not exactly what you'd say a traditional color scheme for athletics. What's your thoughts on that?
I love it. Like I absolutely love it. It's actually funny because a lot of people say that even if the team flopped as a soccer league, they could succeed as an apparel brand. People love it. It's super creative, and I think it's what we needed. I mean, I'm still learning a lot about the culture down here. It's very different from Pittsburgh. It's very different from the rest of the country, honestly. But it's very Miami, like just the flashy, like the bright pink. Our stadium seats are split between gray, black, and pink. So it's a super cool atmosphere. Like it feels like this is Inter Miami. And that's what we want. One of our slogans here is your football is here. And we have that plastered over so many places here down in Brickell, which is a big hub for the community and everything. So it's awesome. I love the colors. It's definitely put more pink in my wardrobe. I think it was like one of the best choices we could have done.
Are you starting to notice? I mean, before all of this, this disruption to our lives, but like just in your day to day life, have you started to notice more and more people in Miami like wearing the colors or becoming more and more involved? Because I know the start of the season, we're pretty much right around when the season would be starting up. Was it something you were able to notice, like say, hey, there's three people over there with the gear on, or there's a couple people there. I noticed, there's some bumper stickers. I don't know. Do people even use bumper stickers anymore? I don't know.
I think it's more magnets than stickers,
Okay.
but yeah, I actually get super excited when we see stuff like that. The local community is really taken to, like, they've wanted soccer for a while here, so we're super lucky with that. But it's like when I'm driving on like I-95, I see someone with their magnet on their car, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I work for them, like they're a fan. Or we'll be out. We have three main supporters groups, three official supporters groups. So we have a lot of support from them, and they're always repping their gear that's got our logo on it. And we have a handful of bars that we do our watch parties at, and it's just really supportive all together. So I still get super excited when I see people because we are so new. We actually were supposed to have our home opener 2 Saturdays ago, and the MLS suspended either the Thursday afternoon or Friday morning right before our home opener was supposed to happen. So, yeah, it was a lot of hype buildup. We had just had an event earlier that week for season ticket holders. I was like, oh, I can't wait to open the park, or open the stadium. And then it kind of got swept away there due to circumstances out of our hands. But there's a lot of still really high energy, even going through this, just talking with our season ticket holders, different group leaders and fans, which is fortunate for us because these times are crazy. Like nobody's ever gone through it before, but it's a really cool, inclusive atmosphere around here.
Well, and you brought up something that I don't think a lot of people think about because soccer culture is pretty interesting. Where you have a lot of supporter groups. Like you wouldn't go to a Steeler or Pirate game and say, hey, there's there might be small pockets, but if you watch an MLS game on TV or a European team, there's massive groups that have different themes and different chants. And what's that been like? Have you been able to work a lot with that, or just have you noticed more like, hey, this is something cool. This is something that's we don't see in other sports in the U.S.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I've never been exposed to it before. Kind of a little bit with the USL because they do have supporter sections. The Riverhounds actually have a really great one to go off of that. They're really supportive out there. City Islanders had one too. I worked a lot more with them when I was out there. Those guys were great to work with. But here, I really had the opportunity to firsthand go and experience it. I was able to fly out to LA for our inaugural first game of the season against LAFC. And not only does LAFC have a crazy support in their section, so I could see theirs, but I didn't have to work that game, so I could actually be up with our supporters in that stand and just see everything that they're about. It was crazy. It was so cool. I wish I could spend every game in the supporters section. Everybody knows the chants. They've got flags and banners, and people are just going crazy the whole time. I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to want to stand for the whole game. I didn't even pay attention to it. I was just everyone's going nuts. There's smoke. It's just it's unreal. I've never seen anything like it before with any other sport. So it's definitely something that I would recommend anyone, even if soccer is not your sport, because it's not for some people, especially if you've never been exposed to it. But that's just something that no other sport has. So if anything, go get in that standing room section and just experience that.
Well, what's the process like? If you're a supporter, is it something that comes from the team? Like, hey, we see there's some supporter sections here. Here's some stuff that we'd like you to chant or say, or is it all pretty much fan driven?
So it's a mix. We recognize 3 official supporter groups, so there are official groups. So they run everything on their own, though, for the most part, and they just work hand in hand with our community department, and they work their things out together, the leaders of each supporters group. So I know they have a really good relationship with our club. But the chants and stuff, those guys make those up. They make sure everybody knows it. But if you were to move down to Miami and you wanted a season ticket in the supporter section, you can sit in that area, or stand, I should say, in that area for all 17 games. And you don't have to even have a direct affiliation to any of those supporters. But if you do want to join a supporters group, you can do that through their own websites and pages and everything.
That's awesome. Yeah, maybe I have to take a trip once the travel bans are lifted because, I mean, For the last couple years, I've been kind of following maybe Portland just because the timber is historic. But my affiliation for an MLS team is kind of on the free agent market. So I mean, any pitches you can make to make me a Miami supporter, I'll gladly listen. I can remember some chants and stuff.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's always good to start with the team from the beginning. Can't say you could do that with Portland, but there's only one David Beckham and there's only one Inter Miami inaugural season, so I'll just leave it at that.
That's awesome. Well, that's kind of a good thing. Like what has been the sales pitch like to the groups? Has it been pretty much specifically, hey, get on the ground floor. This is exciting, or maybe not the groups, but like just general fans like trying to build interest, or is it, you know, is soccer such a big thing in Miami that it's just been kind of like, hey, this is exciting. We have this outlet now. You have a team. You know, we're signed on the dotted line, basically.
Yeah, I think that's just it. Like Miami has wanted soccer for forever. It's only in 2020 is it starting, in my opinion. So a lot of it has just been people are like, finally, like our football is here. Like we can finally enjoy a team, and then I think we'll hit a whole second wave of that when we move from Fort Lauderdale to Miami. But even then, there's still like certain businesses, there's different groups, like even opposing teams' fans want to travel here to like be a part of this, even if they're supporting the other team to see it. LAFC's fans, when we went out there, were great. They were so supportive of our supporters, and it was just a really great environment. That's the other thing with soccer is like teams want to see you succeed. Of course, you're going to get heated rivalries, and you want your team to win at the end of the day, but you also want to see the league succeed and grow. And sometimes I think that like other leagues and fans take that for like advantage because they've just been around for forever, and they're kind of just set there. But it kind of is a family all around the league, and it's really cool to see.
Well, one of the cool things you kind of just touched on a little bit with MLS. I'm old enough to remember when the MLS started, and like the shift from the big, football, American football, baseball stadiums to the smaller soccer-specific stadiums, and that's been something great because it seems like, you know, it's really built a lot of support in the areas and just looks great on TV. And we were talking a little bit before we started the show, just like some of the plans for the new stadium once it gets built in Miami, and just how amazing that structure is going to be whenever it's finally built.
Yeah, absolutely. That's and especially right now too, that's something as we're looking to like actually start the season back up and everything. We're really fortunate to have our own stadium that like we just share with our USL2 team. So we don't have to worry about any other sport if teams share, like NYCFC plays in Yankee Stadium, Nashville SC plays in the Titan Stadium. So like we don't know what's going on with this right now. Like we only know as much as we can every single day. Everyone's on the same page because it's just a very unfamiliar time. But we're fortunate enough to have a soccer stadium that's just Inter Miami Stadium, and even though ours is on the smaller side, holding 17 or 18,000 people, Miami Freedom is going to be pretty large, and just to have your own stadium, like it's a big deal.
Yeah, exactly. And I know, like I said, watching games on TV, just the when they're packed. I mean, there's just nothing that can rival the enthusiasm of a fan or a crowd at a big time soccer game, because like you said, you got the supporter sections. In some of the games, you got competing supporter sections for each team chanting, and you see the flags and stuff like that. Have you seen any crazy flags from the supporter sections, or is it just since the season really hasn't been able to kick off, has that not been something you've been aware of?
It's been tough. I mean, I only have the one experience out in LA. And I wouldn't say like anything super, super crazy just because it wasn't our home stadium. Kind of bummed we weren't able to see that. I was hoping that if we were going to suspend, we were going to hold out and wait till that Monday so we could get that home opener in. But at the end of the day, like that, our health and safety for like our players, fans, and staff is more important. So, um, hopefully we've got some big stuff in the making. Our supporters are rowdy and they're proud and they're ready. So I'm sure we're working on some stuff, but it's stay tuned.
Well, hopefully we'll get to the other side of this disruption soon enough and get back to day to day stuff. But let's talk about some fun stuff. We got a couple minutes left. Like you said, you're from Central PA. How has the adjustment been from Central PA to Miami? I mean, there a lot of people say Central PA and Miami are the exact same place, but I have a feeling they may
Oh, sure.
be making that up.
Yeah, you know, I thought the same thing coming down here. Thought cultures were hand in hand, and allegedly I was wrong. We have the wrong opinion. Honestly, it's like a different country. I joke around with people that have been down here for years, have grown up here. I was like, Miami has to break you and rebuild you as its own to get along here. Obviously, like even Pittsburgh and where I'm from in Central PA, we don't have a very large Hispanic population. Down here, we do. There's a lot of different cultures here. So even myself, who's like been trying to study Spanish with like Duolingo, just really doing anything I can to try to pick it up, especially now that we're working from home, it's still like, it is really like everybody, almost everybody does speak Spanish down here, which is probably the biggest adjustment. So it's definitely something I'm working on learning. But the coolest thing is like, because there's so many cultures, like the food down here is incredible. You're always meeting new, like interesting types of people. We're just in like the hub of so many experiences, whether it's all the sports teams that are down here, the cruise lines, like even just like the nightlife and the beaches, like it's a whole different world. I don't know if I could ever move back to a state that has a winter because it's been really great not remembering what snow is like. But it's crazy how quickly you adjust to like the weather until we get those humid days and it's actually summer here and it gets a little crazy. We'll see how that goes, but it's a big adjustment. I'm definitely still adjusting. I was kind of bummed because we got put on quarantine as I was finally starting to feel adjusted. And so we might have to do a little bit of starting over, but it's different. But I think it was a really good move for me.
Well, you mentioned it being the quarantine and everything like that. You're just starting to hit stride. How hard has it been to adjust to the work from home situation that it seems like everybody in the country is doing now? Has it been an easy adjustment for you, or is it like everybody it's been an adjustment?
Honestly, I think I got a little bit luckier just because like I only graduated in December 2018. It's like been only a little over a year. So it kind of takes me back to like school, like when I used to sit in like SAB's office and just like tune out the world and get all this work done, or like I'd sit in my apartment at school and or down in the media suite. Like it's kind of like that again for me. So I don't necessarily dislike the working from home because I can just like roll through like working with my clients, any other tasks that I have throughout the week and just like get that done at my own pace without any other distractions because it's really just like me here, my roommate and whatever. Um, but I don't like the forced isolation. That's the tough part. I'm very extroverted, as most people in sales and sports are throughout life. So a lot that's what most of us are struggling with. Like we have a very close office too. A lot of us are really good friends. So it's hard to not be able to go in and like just mess around and like keep building those relationships. So we've started doing a lot of video calls instead of just conference calls in just to see each other. It has helped a lot actually with like morale. But overall, like, I mean, I could probably work from home for the rest of my life. I just don't want to.
Yeah, and I think that's a big thing you mentioned about just the human contact because I know, um, in the media area, as my light just burned out. In the media area, I mean, it's always a hub of activity, and anytime you're down there, you're going to see five or six or seven different conversations going on, and not having that for the past couple or for the past 2 weeks has been an adjustment because like I'm used to people throwing baseball outside my office or 14 bags of Chick-fil-A coming by my door and be like, well, I guess I'm going to eat Chick-fil-A for the fifth straight day. um, in the last couple minutes here, since this is CalU Connections, what are some of the like things you miss about good old CalU of PA or California PA or Western PA? Any PAs you want to talk about, Jess? Just go for
Okay, yeah, it was just cutting in and out a little bit there. Oh, I miss Cal U almost every day. I joke around all the time saying, "Man, I wish I could just go back to grad school," which I know I can. Nobody call me, please. I know it's an option, but I miss it so much. Like I loved every single organization I was a part of. Like it's weird. I was just looking back at like a bunch of like memories the other day when I was talking to some of my core friends from school, but like you just like don't realize how easy it is like to live your life through being at Cal and everything and just like all of the opportunities that you really do have when you put yourself out there. I was just thinking, man, like I'm not going to get to go see like as many Broadway shows anymore or like I miss like running concerts or like when am I going to get to like I just like oh I kind of would love to write about this. Oh, I can't. It's just weird. Like it's little things that you got so used to in like your time there, like 3.5 years, 2 years, four, however long you've been at Cal. There being the sized university that it is, there are just so many opportunities if you're willing to just like put in that work, whether you do one thing you love or you spread yourself super thin like I used to do over like 10 organizations. But that's what I miss the most. It's very routine here. Like I go to work and I go home, and I'm lucky that I work in sports because I work so much and we have those games that it keeps it very fresh and moving. And I couldn't do just an everyday office job, I'd say.
Well, I was going to say, I think you might be one of the few people that workload has kind of got lower when you went into real world because you were involved. And I think 10 is a very small estimate of the number of clubs and things you were involved in at Cal U, but you definitely were, took advantage of all the opportunities. And like I said, we're awfully proud of you and glad everything's going well down there in Miami, and look forward to hopefully seeing some Miami FC. Or I don't know, what's the exact? Because I've been calling it Miami FC. What is the exact? I got to practice this if I'm going to be a supporter.
You do, because that's not right. So Miami FC is a team here. It's the USL team.
Okay.
So you're kind of right. There is a team here like that. The MLS team is Inter Miami CF.
Inter Miami CF. Inter Miami CF.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to go as soon as this quarantine's over. I'm going to get a tattoo right here, Inter Miami CF,
sure?
And then a Pitbull lyric because got to be real Miami. So
Mr. 305, if you will.
Mr. Worldwide. Well, I used to call myself Mr. Countywide, so I mean he stole it from me.
You're right.
But there's still some litigation, so I can't really talk about that. But Jess, this has been great. You're welcome anytime on here, and like I said, we're all proud of the work you're doing down there. Any last words for the Cal U community before you go back into working at home mode?
Sure. This time is crazy. We all know that nobody has gone through it before. Try to do little things each day. Reach out to your peers. Video calls help. Try to stay positive. This will pass. I know you guys had some of you had a hectic end of your college careers. But stay connected. Hold on to what you do have. You guys have done great work, especially in the media suite. It's so impressive to still see as an alumni. But we'll get through this. Just try to stay positive. And if you ever need anything, feel free to reach out to me. I'm always here to talk about anything.
Sounds good. I think I'm going to get ready to start the Cal U chapter of the Inter Miami FC supporter group. No, am I still wrong?
Inter Miami CF. Just flip it. It's Club Day.
Miami
yeah, Club
CF.
Day football.
I'll just remember club. Can I just say club to football? Will that be
Absolutely.
easier? All right, club
Absolutely.
to football, and we'll start learning the chant. So, Jess, thanks again for everything, and once again, thank you for watching here on CUTV Sports One. Once again, follow us along on Facebook, which is California University Television. I'm horrible getting things right today. And then follow us along on Twitter at CUTV_PA, and then our good friends over at the Cal Times. And Jess, you remember the Cal Times for many, many years. They're doing great work through this time. Follow their Twitter at Cal Times. And then our good friends over at WCAL, the radio station, they have put a collaborative bunch of playlists to get people through. So follow those on Spotify, WCAL Power 92. And Jess, real quick before you go, talking about the playlist, if you had to add one song to the playlist, what would it be?
Oh, My House by Flo Rida. Everyone knows that about me.
All right, so look for that later on today. So for Jess Crosson, I'm Gary Smith. Once again, this is a special 2-show day because the internet is very bad in the Hiller studio, and now the light went out, so I got to fix that in the next hour. But at 3 o'clock, we'll have another edition of Cal U Connections. Thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you in a couple hours.